the King. We easily fail to appreciate the full reality of Jesus' sovereign authority and power. I think we tend to subconsciously just assume that sovereignty means that Jesus is somehow able to take evil and unexpected things and turn them to good ends. To make lemonade out of lemons, right? He's able to take bad, unexpected things that the devil does, and turn them to serve his own purposes. We tend to think of Jesus like a Marvel superhero. Jesus and the devil are in this mighty contest, and Jesus, he might lose some battles, but he wins the war. Well, that is just not how the Bible describes Jesus' sovereignty. Jesus never loses a battle, ever. Ever. Every detail of the battle, every time, is determined and ordained by Jesus. The authority, you see, of Christ is absolute, even over the devil. The devil only does what Jesus allows him to do. We saw that already in the book of Revelation. The 4 horsemen of the apocalypse are sent by the authority of Jesus, and their destruction is within borders set by Jesus. The 4 angels of the apocalypse are given authority by King Jesus. His authority is absolute. Nothing happens apart from his sovereign command. Heidelberg Catechism 28, I believe, question 28, talking about the providence of God, just wonderfully says, nothing can move or be moved without his command. Nothing can move or be moved without the command of Christ. That's just incredible. That's awesome. Birds do not fly from tree to tree without the command of Christ. Nothing can move or be moved. That means that every detail of your life is by the authority, under the sovereignty of King Jesus. Now, the part of that that's painful is that means that Jesus ordains hard, painful things to happen even in the lives of his children, the lives of those he loves. When his good friend Lazarus died, his dear friends Mary and Martha both rebuke him. Lord, if you had been here, he would not have died. They saw the death as Jesus' negligence. But Jesus, speaking of the death of his friend Lazarus, said this was ordained for God's glory, that you might be able to see the glory of God. In other words, that hard things happen by God's decree for God's purposes. Now again, that's a hard truth at times, right? Some of you have experienced devastatingly painful things. Some of you are in the midst of incredibly difficult circumstances right now this morning. And I don't know why Jesus is ordaining those things. We're going to see there are things that belong to God. The secret things belong to God. I don't know why. And some people will try to comfort then by saying that he's not ordaining these things, that the devil is just doing his worst, and what Jesus promises is to turn them for our good. But let's just, if we could just think that through very quickly. What would you really rather have in your life? Would you rather have a life in which Jesus is desperately trying to make the best of things that go wrong and the evil and the pain that we experience, where he's sort of picking up after the devil and trying to set things right? Or would you rather a life in which Jesus, in every single detail, is sovereignly working out his good purposes, even though they are painful and hard? Because I think, wouldn't you rather the second? I would. That there's reason, there's order, there's nothing amiss. There are no accidents, no mishaps or mistakes in my life, in your life, if his sovereignty is absolute. And then to remember that absolute sovereignty in the context of who Christ is. And because we need to remember that though Jesus ordains hard things, devastating things, even for his children, he is not untouched by the grief of them. So he ordained the death of his friend Lazarus, and then he wept at the grief of it. And he gave his own life to restore it. So he's not a sovereign, far removed in the quarters of heaven and sort of casually ordaining difficult things for his children and just saying, trust me. He does say, trust me. But he says, trust me, because he wants us to understand that we have a high priest who's able to sympathize. He knows because he experienced. And he gave his life, suffering the judgment of God, so that our losses might be restored, even as our sorrows are understood. And that our losses will be restored in such glory, in such magnificence, that the hardest things will seem light and momentary, Paul says, in the last day. Jesus, friends, wants his church to understand his loving, sovereign rule over the whole world and our lives, so that we think and experience our lives differently. Jesus is not our mighty advocate in the sky, just trying to make the best of what this world and the devil might throw at us. He stands with one foot on the realm of chaos and death and one foot on the realm of human rebellion, and he rules. He reigns. His sovereignty is absolute.